This is an AI-free podcast. Everything you read, see, and hear was created by a human.
Dan Votto was not impressed the first time he met me. In September of 2024, I self-published my first book titled Butterfly Nut. It was a chaotic confessional blend of poetry and hand-drawn comics. I wrote, designed, and printed the book over the course of just 90 days, and I felt pretty confident that the final result was God's gift to literature. Enter Dan Votto. I met Dan when I walked into his San Jose comic book shop and music venue, not really knowing who he was. I had only a vague knowledge of his comic book publishing company, SLG, and its breakout titles like Johnny the Homicidal Maniac. I had the idea in my head that Dan would be delighted to meet me and eager to carry my book in his store. I was so confident, in fact, that I didn't have much of a plan for how I would pitch the sale. In response to my vague, incoherent request, it became pretty evident that I was wasting Dan's time and he was ready for me to go. As he turned away, I dropped the act and admitted that I had never done this before, and I didn't know what I was doing. And did he have any advice? So it turns out he did. Dan had great advice. He told me to drop the QT influencer routine and act like a human, which, though I didn't know it at the time, was advice that I desperately needed to hear. He also said to know who I was talking to before I tried to sell them something. And then he gave me a business card, and he crossed his arms all smug, and he said, "Google me. I've been doing this a long time." The next time I walked through his door, I had a microphone in hand and a request. Would you be in a podcast with me? He agreed, if anything, out of morbid curiosity, and neither of us knew the places this project would take us. At the time of recording this, some of those places have still yet to be revealed. My name is Emily Parent, and this podcast is called The Unexpected Mentor. I hope you too get more than you expect out of these conversations.
I think a lot of people go through life when they're younger, and people are afraid to give you their honest opinion about their whatever, their work, their stuff, their things. You clearly, when you brought your book here, you worked really hard on it. I could see that, and you put a lot of investment of time. You invested a lot of money in the way it looked. It seemed to me, at any rate. And this is something that when you handed me the book, it looked like a sincere effort to me. And I think that's ultimately what I look for from folks, in terms of comics, maybe a little less so in terms of booking bands here. But, the people who succeed generally, need to do something. And you had a need to tell this story, right? Mm-hmm. And you told it. And then you brought it in here, and I said, whatever, but you'll get better. And then we started working on this, and then I decided to assert myself creatively, but not in terms of this is sort of my weakness is I didn't really give Emily any direction. I just let her go off. Matter of fact, I think I told you, no, I'm going to let you do what you want because maybe I'm not the target. My thought process isn't what should carry this. And then she came to me with her, she made a pitch book that was a mini, or a zine rather, and thinking that it would appeal to me. And she was right in that level. And I looked at it I don't know.
He liked the presentation. He did not like the content.
And I just shit all over it. And so...
Wait, the book was the same deal, actually. You liked the presentation, just not the content.
I didn't say that I didn't like the content. I said that it was not for me. And so that somebody else might look at it and say oh, this speaks to me. And it just didn't speak to me, Uh-huh. That was if I didn't make that clear. I didn't think it was, it looked great and it was nicely designed. There was definitely you in that book. It was if I had a thing and we're putting this out, it's if I had an issue with it, is I felt like I needed to know you in order to see you in that book.
my intention was, and it was my first book and I made it all myself. And I wanted people to read that and get to know me, but, the flip happened that people enjoyed it when they knew me already. So it was things I learned.
And so you do your next thing. What you need to do is be able to give a proper introduction to you, without having to know you. I want to be able to sense who Emily Parent is from the page, not from here. And like, oh, okay, this makes sense. This makes sense now because I've met you.
Yeah.
And now I want to, you make sense because I've read this.
So the book inherently cannot be something that someone gets to know me through. Like, it's always just going to be confusing without anything to anchor it.
That particular book.
Okay.
The next one will be better. What did I tell you?
You said it was very nice.
No, what did I say after that?
Oh, success is not something, it's another thing.
No. It's good to know. Good to know that you were listening. You can work very, very hard at what you do. You can actually be really, really good at what you do and not be successful at what you do. And it has nothing to do with what you did. It just has to do with what worked and what didn't. If that book is your end definition of success, then you succeeded. You got a book out there, you chronicled on Instagram, it looks good, and it reads well, and all that kind of thing. That's, to me, that's successful. You've actually sold copies on Amazon, right?
Yes.
That's successful. Is it a huge success? No, but it's a great first step. And what I told you that I want you to remember is you will get better, right? You will get better as a writer. You will get better as an artist. You just need to write, and you just need to draw, and you just need to, take in the stuff that comes around you and just make it part of you. And I've seen that over and over again. Some people are good. They come to you as a completely finished product, and some people need to be brought in and not told what to do, but at least given an opportunity to be criticized, to have a platform. You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
Because it's like, my opinion might not be right, but we take a comic book and you put it out there and you publish it because you think that that's a sincere effort and might have an opportunity to succeed. And then it gets out there and people trash it. And it's like, for some folks, it's like, well, this is the end of my career. And then for other folks, it's like, well, I might look at being trashed and make that part of me and decide what has value and what doesn't. And then my next thing might be better. Because people will always give you another chance, creatively speaking, Like your audience will always give you another chance. They'll always give you another chance. They'll always give you a chance to prove that you either can or can't do it.
How did you learn that?
Just by seeing.
You had a front row seat to all of these people trying and failing and trying and failing.
Well, I had my own front row seat to it. That's and so for those of you that don't know, beyond being a publisher, I wrote for DC Comics for a very long time in the 90s, early 80s.
And I imagine DC fans are the most critical.
They have not forgotten. They will not let that shit go. I wrote the Justice League for a year, and I wrote in the Justice League franchise for 18 months until I literally could not take it anymore. And it wasn't the criticism that I couldn't take. It was fair criticism, but it was just like, am I really the right guy to be doing this? I don't know, but it was a paycheck and I needed it. So I did it, and I did my sincere level best on it. And I feel like I improved as I went along reading the criticism, because my first reaction was they didn't get it, what I was trying to do. And I realized I didn't do a good job. Maybe I didn't do a good job of selling it. So I have this small, very small group of aging people who actually liked it and understood, sort of my attitude towards what I was writing at the time and what I was trying to accomplish. And then there's this other group of people, and we see it kind of now as like a lot of fandom is very toxic. And you talk about Star Wars and you talk about, Marvel stuff and things like that. And the bigger it is, the more volume there is to the toxicity. And people will say they want something different, and then when you give them something different, then they don't like it because it wasn't the same. And that's frustrating, And I tried to split the difference. Just to give it context, I wrote the Justice League. This was at a time when they did the death of Superman. Superman had been dead, right? And the Justice League watched this guy die. They fought next to him, and they watched the most powerful man in the universe die. And then I felt that there was no consequence to that, that the monthly Justice League comic book just kind of went on being that thing, you know, like that it was before. And I wanted to like show like these people are kind of fucked up. So, and I tried to do that. It's like, oh, nobody wants to be depressed in a monthly comic book. Shock. At any rate, I got other chances. People are always like, even if they're going to like, well, I'll give that a look because that guy sucked on the Justice League. And this is interesting. And you talk about people that won't let go. That was like 30 some years ago that I wrote that. And it still pops up from time to time.
Like people still reach out to be mad at you? People
still look at those. Like people just never forget about anything is what it seems like. And it's not a matter of being mad. Like one guy wrote in a comment section of a review, because DC, for whatever reason, several years ago, decided to collect those books that I wrote into a graphic novel, into two of them, when that second Wonder Woman movie was coming out. Because I had Wonder Woman as the leader of the Justice League, and apparently it was the only time in the entire Justice League history that Wonder Woman was like the lead character in the Justice League.
Feminist icon Dan Votto.
Yeah. So at any rate, I became fair game again, and it was, I think in an Amazon review of the book of one of the collections was that the pages at the end were printed out of order, but that it didn't seem to make a difference to the flow of the book. I didn't see it because I didn't even know this thing existed until somebody Facebook messaged me and says, "Hey, if I send you my Justice League book, will you sign it?" And I'm like, what are you talking about? What book? And so I didn't know anything. Nobody told me anything about it, whatever. And I looked on Amazon, and there it was.
Did it not make a difference in their changing to royalties?
Well, I had to call them and say, like, hey, so am I getting anything from this? And in all fairness, DC had gone, it's 30 years later, you know, so I think they didn't really look that hard for me. Even though I'm not really necessarily that hard to find. If you type in Dan Votto into your Google search thing, I'm pretty much the first thing that shows up. But I accepted that, and I made a little bit of money, not a lot. You know, I wasn't able to buy a new car or anything, but I paid the gas bill that month that book came out. And they did two of them. And it was funny because I wasn't the only writer in the book in either one of those collections, because they took from a sampling of this whole run of Justice League and its various spin-off books. So it was fair enough, and I get reviewed, but it's like I really didn't want to see this pop up again 30 fucking years later.
Was the review mean?
I think it was realistic. I think I get why people didn't like the comic then and maybe still don't like it now. Maybe didn't do a very good job of trying to sell what I was trying to write, in terms of like connecting and saying like, hey, this is kind of a progression from this event to another event, and you know, it's just kind of a series of tragedies for these people. And the Justice League had been kind of a lighthearted book for a long time. Like I had a character, Blue Beetle, who had spent a fucking months in a coma, and I felt like there should be when he woke up that there should be some consequence to that. I wasn't like appropriate for that title. The one user review that I still remember reading was the guy said, I feel like Dan Votto had a more interesting life than he is a writer, or something like that. And I was like, yeah, that's fair enough. But like, okay, let's talk about you for a second.
Me.
Yeah, we're going to talk about Butterfly Net. You briefly gave me the elevator pitch on it.
Yeah.
It's a book about
me. Like, so many things had just happened to me. I figured if they were going to happen to me, and if I was going to carry them around, then I was going to find a way to make it into a story that I was telling about myself, because I've like made a ton of missteps and I've acted on emotion throughout my life. I followed a path that wasn't really aligned with my values for a long time. I was trying to hustle through my 20s to, like, I don't know, get titles for my LinkedIn page. I was trying to impress people in my life who money is much more important to them. Because it's just never been a huge value for me. I kind of feel like the sands of time scrape my bones every day, and I have only this moment right now. I feel this like constant existential terror that all I have is like right now. And what am I doing? Answering fucking emails from Linda in HR. That's a made-up person. There's no Linda in HR. Don't go looking for her.
There might
But
be. Somewhere. I'm sure there's a Linda in HR.
yeah, Linda, you're doing great work, but I don't want to answer your fucking emails. I don't want to fill out my time card. I have always just wanted to make art, and have always been a person who lives with like one foot in a daydream. And yes. What was that face?
Oh, no, that's great. That's a great line. I love that. No, go. Come on. Don't look at me. Don't look at me for approval.
That is how I wrote a 74-page book called Butterfly Net, where it started with 30 poems that I wrote over the course of the summer after I was dealing with separating from a 9-to-5 gig and feeling kind of unmoored. And then the poems were chunky, moving from one topic to the next, so then I added this comic book element to it, where it was, the general idea of the book is that it's a bunch of poems, and it's basically moving you from a place of losing your anchor and having to start over, and then taking stock of how you even got to the place that you are when it's not the place you're meant to be, and then the process of figuring out, coming back to who you are. And there's this big theme that I kick around in it about sense of self, because I really struggled to find my sense of self, because I live underneath all of these layers of performance and being different twisted funhouse mirrors versions of me in order to survive. And I felt like I kind of lost who was underneath it all, which is this soaking wet weasel with a large vocabulary. I'm just trying to live as her, as that weird weasel thing. And that's the book. Did that answer your question?
I think so. No, but having accomplished that, like you set yourself a goal to do this thing and to write this book and illustrate it in 3 months, right?
Yes.
And you chronicled the entirety of the process.
I did. I wanted at the same time to figure out how to build a personal brand alongside doing a project. So it was these two projects that ran simultaneously.
What do you think you accomplished better? Is the book the end result? The brand building the end result? The Instagram chronicling of it? Is it all the same?
It was not the same. And I think what I got the most out of it was really interesting lessons. I learned in a really cursory, really rough, informal way how to do this thing that I want to be doing. And I know that I can do it better next time. But I also know that trying to market a book while you're also trying to write it and create it and print it is actually not sustainable when you're just one human person.
It's really not. You did it. You accomplished it. It's not a matter of like whether it's too much or not. You did.
I did it. I hit the finish line. I hit that deadline.
You did, absolutely.
And I knew that it wasn't going to be perfect, but I was really just dedicated to like being open to learning and failing so that I could do something better next time.
What kind of reactions did you get besides mine? Forget mine for a second. What were people telling you?
My biggest success was with the people who knew me personally, and I was in a very lucky position where, because I teach yoga classes, I have like these dedicated like 30 to 40 people who come and see me throughout the week. You know, what is $12 to make your yoga teacher really happy when you have this weird kind of pseudo relationship where I talk at them for an hour? So, you know, it was never about the book, it was about the relationships along the way. And I brought it in with you. Dan told me that he thought it was, what was it? Shallow?
Was that my exact words?
I think it was like...
I don't remember. I felt like it was sort of, felt like you were dancing around. Now I'm going to just kind of give it to you because I don't remember what I said to you, but I felt the book sort of danced around getting to a real point where there was some sort of self-actualized growth.
Uh-huh.
You know, where you, like, did you change from point A to point Z within the thing? Or it was just sort of like your kind of being, your frustration, obviously, and your personality came out in there. But I mean, I had, before I read the book, obviously had experienced you because you came in here to try to sell it, and I had you sit down and said, like, don't do that. But I felt like it was a good first step for you, you know, and that there was maybe something a little deeper that you were going to get to at some point. Maybe that was too much to expect from a 74-page book that was chronicling like your feelings as you reach this point in life. But I felt like you kind of got lost in the Emily Parent, and we never got Emily Parent.
Lost in the story of Emily Parent?
No, the story of Emily Parent got lost in the personality of Emily Parent.
Oh.
That's why maybe I look at it and I'm like, this reflected you because I met you, and like your yoga students are reading that because now they've already known you, they've already experienced you, they like it because it's you, right? But I felt unrequited, I guess is the word.
Like I never invited the reader back in?
I felt like you did not self-actualize within it. I just feel like I felt like this was a series of fucked up shit that's everybody else's fault.
Okay.
And it's like I was waiting for a little self-reflection, and I didn't get it. You okay?
I'm okay.
Yeah, you don't look okay.
Dan, I'm deeply enjoying this.
Are you?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, let me tell you something about feedback and criticism. If somebody tells me they don't like my shit, I'm like, well, you're stupid. It's not for you anyway. But that's not what this is right here. Dan is allowed to tell me that it doesn't work or that it's not working or that it's bad because Dan is qualified to.
Hang on.
Yes.
Everybody's entitled to their opinion.
Yes, but I don't care about opinions of people who aren't as good of a writer as me.
But you should.
Oh, I don't want to.
You have to. You don't have to let it guide what you write or how you do it. You write what you know. You write what you feel. What you can take from value for me is that, what you can take from that critique, when it's honest and when it's sincere,
mm-hmm.
and which is what your work needs to strive for. And you say, like, okay, I respect that because you've done this, right? But if somebody comes up to you and just says, like that, that's valid criticism too, even if they've never done it. Because ultimately you're writing for you. And there's nothing wrong with that. But here's the thing, and this is what I felt was missing. I got no throughput on your whole deal. I felt like you kind of just, and maybe this is a thing that you do in your regular life, I don't know, because I only experience you here, right? But it's sort of like, where does Emily expose herself? Like, where do we find that? Where's the growth? And the next thing? I don't know. I think you have a lot of talent that you're going to get better at, and it's just like you just started, and you're a literal young person. And as a creative person, you're a literal child, and you're going to get better. I told you you're going to get better because you have the right energy, and so that's that. But you just need to be able to be honest with yourself in front of other people. I have things I've written that I will never ever let anyone see because it would involve maybe hurting people, and I don't want to be that.
And you never have that desire to reveal you?
Yeah, I have no desire to reveal that part of myself. It makes everything I do dishonest. I'll brush up against something that might be real, and then I'll I can't say that.
You have learned things by doing.
I've learned more things by watching,
mm-hmm.
right? By watching other people's process and trying to match it both to my own and to match it to other people whose, process I kind of respect.
Mm-hmm.
So as we're chatting about this and you're talking about your process and things like that, I look at you, I look at the thing, I look at your process now that I've gotten to know you a little bit better. I see someone who has something to offer, right? And you're going to just have to kind of move through that progression of things that gets you to a point where you not only have something of real depth to talk about, in your life, but that you're not afraid to bump up against it. And so I get it. It's like, I don't like feeling bad. I don't, and I don't think anybody likes to feel bad, but sometimes when you're doing something and it's honest work, there's work that you do, like the Justice League. Do you think I really sat up at night worrying about the Justice League? No. It's like, geez, I'm getting paid $100 a page. It's work for hire. And you know what work for hire is like. Can you really, in that instance, afford to put yourself into it? I don't know if you can, because then it's like, especially if it's work for hire, it belongs to somebody else. Somebody hired you to do it. Now the work is theirs. Who needs that? I didn't pay you anything, right? The process here is very much about what your end goal is. I think that I look at that book, I look at what it was, and it's just like the goal of the book was just to have the book.
Yeah.
Right?
It really was.
Yeah. And now you got it. But what else do you want to do?
I want to make a graphic novel.
But you remember what last time we were talking about want versus need?
Oh, you want me to say I need to make a graphic novel?
No, I don't want you to say that. I need you to realize what the difference is. There's wanting to do something and needing to do something. You've got that something that's in here and it's going to come out, and you need it to come out. And then that's the thing I'm looking for, rather than just, I want a book. When you get able to be honest with yourself and write from a position of real passion, whatever it might be, it could be a recipe book. These are all the things that satisfy me, right? When I eat them, they make me happy, and I want to share them with you.
Yeah,
right?
something I'm willing to suffer the humanness of.
Yeah, exactly. And that's just an example, but that's something that you can do.
What are you passionate about right now?
I guess I feel passionate about making sure that when people walk in here into this place, that they are being given the tools to be on stage, be successful, and B, when people come in here, that they have the things in front of them to feel some sense of joy, even if it's just in that few minutes that they're here. That's what I'm passionate about.
Thank you, Dan.